This bed is a perfect example of do-nothing gardening. Though it's bursting with crops, we haven't intentionally planted anything here for years. That's because everything you see here is either an established perennial or a self-sowing annual. I've already talked about edible perennials in my do-nothing gardening series, so today I'll focus on self-sowing annuals. Most of our self-sowing annuals are greens, which can be harvested using a cut-and-come-again approach. At the end of the season, we let them go to seed and drop their seeds in place. The plants are then either chopped and dropped or simply allowed to decompose in order to return nutrients to the soil. When the time is right, the seeds germinate and produce a whole new crop. This process in effect saves seeds for the next season and plants our next crop for us without requiring any effort on our part. Because some of the beds are covered with hoop houses and cold frames during the winter, some of the greens survive the entire winter, and others germinate early, giving us a very early spring harvest without having to start plants indoors or harden them off to outside conditions. There's so little work involved, it's actually easier than buying greens from the grocery store. We usually get plenty of rain in the spring, so little to no watering is required. And so many seeds are dropped that we get a thick carpet of greens, providing a living mulch that retains moisture in the soil. With so many greens, we can selectively choose to eat some as baby greens, while letting others grow to maturity and produce seeds for the next crop. This allows us to select which plants reproduce and which don't, and prevents any one particular type of green from dominating. Other than allowing all the plants to decompose in the bed, all we do to maintain soil fertility is to add a small amount of compost and worm castings from free local resources. We also chop and drop comfrey, which grows alongside the edibles. As with all of our beds, there are plenty of native earthworms and red wigglers to break down the plant residue and comfrey mulch. One concern often expressed about this approach is the lack of crop rotation. However, the need for crop rotation is largely a product of monocultures, where a single crop is grown over an entire area. This leads to certain nutrient deficiencies and can attract specific pests. This polyculture bed, on the other hand, has a wide variety of unrelated crops that don't necessarily deplete the same nutrients or attract the same pests. We've used this approach for 6 consecutive years in this bed and have seen no evidence of nutrient deficiencies or significant pest problems, and the plants are very healthy. Of course, greens aren't the only self-sowing crop. We tend to focus on them because they're relatively small and can grow in close proximity. They're also a perfect match for our short growing season because they're cold hardy. Tomatoes, on the other hand, are great self-sowers, but our growing season is too short for self-sown tomatoes. They likely wouldn't produce ripe fruit before the first frost. And squash and pumpkins are great self-sowers as well, but the plants are too large to let grow wild in our small garden. So self-sowing annuals are a key part of our do-nothing gardening strategy. Though it's still early in the growing season, my wife and I have been harvesting huge salads, consisting mostly of self-sown annuals, every day for the last several weeks. It's so much easier to pick our own self-sown greens from the garden than it is to go to the grocery store, and it's a whole lot cheaper too. Well, that's all for now. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, remember, you can change the world 1 yard at a time.